Hi there! This is the second video about sewing a puffer jacket. We've stopped on stitching the side seams together and sewing their seam allowances to the insulation by hand. Let's move on to the cuffs. Fold the cuff by half and pin together its short edges right sides inside. Stitch with a 1 cm seam allowance. Measure your wrist and add some centimeters for extra space, plus 2 cm for seam allowances. We'll need 2 pieces of 4 cm wide elastic. My wrist length was 13.5 cm, and at first I added 2.5 extra centimeters, but after making a cuff and attaching it to the sleeve, I understood that it wasn't enough. It was too tight for my wrist. So I remade it and added 4.5 centimeters instead. The elastic's overall length for my wrist was 20 centimeters each. Pin the elastic's short edges together and stitch with a 1 cm seam allowance. Open the seam allowances and secure them with hand stitches. Insert the cuff into the elastic ring, open the seam allowances and pin the long edges together, wrong sides inside. The marks should coincide. I found it easier to hand stitch the cuff first. Remove the pins and only then stitch along the cuff's edge with a 1 cm seam allowance, thus attaching its two layers to each other and closing our elastic inside. Remove the free arm platform. Then I tried the puffer jacket on, got my wrist into the cuff and decided to shorten the sleeves by 2 cm. So I hand-stitched the cuff to one of the sleeves, roughly 2 cm away from its edge, and tried the coat on once more. This time I was satisfied with the sleeve's length. So I unsewed the cuff, marked 2 cm off the sleeve's edge, and made a line of machine stitches 1 mm away from the future sleeve's edge. Cut the excess fabric off and pinned and hand-stitched the cuff to the sleeve again. Don't forget to mark the center of the sleeve's edge. Stitch with a 1 cm seam allowance precisely at the previous seam, thus it won't be seen at the coat's right side. Repeat for the second sleeve. Let's move on to the central front parts. There are two of them, the right and the left one. To understand which of them is which, I laid our puffer jacket on the table and put the central front parts on it. It's easier to use the shoulder seam mark as a reference. It is on the concave edge. Then we should understand where the magnets go. The technical layer's right side should be inside the coat, so the magnets on the left center front part should be near the left side front part. The magnets on the right center part should be at its edge, where it attaches to the facing. It is so because the right center front part goes on top of the left center front part. Let's mark where the magnet snaps should go at the right side of a technical layer. This is the technical layer for the puffer jacket's left front part. Each magnet snap consists of two parts. Opposite poles of each magnet are attracted to each other. In our case, we need to place one of its magnetic sides on the right side of the technical layer, as I show in the video, and then secure it with hand stitches. Then I made a line of machine stitches on the snaps plastic case perimeter. I use a single foot for that. I've also put the magnet snaps parts together for now, so that they won't be lost. This is the puffer jacket's left front part. At first, I check that all the marks coincide. As I've already mentioned in the first video, I've attached both right and left central front parts to the insulation material by mistake. So at this stage I had to unsew the layers of the left central part in order to insert our technical layer inside it. Then I removed the snaps second parts and inserted our technical layer inside, the magnetic side towards the main material's wrong side, as it is shown in the video. I pinned the layers together, paying special attention to the marks. Use the pins carefully, only parallel the edges, unless you want to have extra holes in the material, of course. Secure the layers together by machine. Stitch 1 mm off the edges. Then I sewed the technical layers upper and lower edges to the insulation by hand. As I didn't want any stitches to be seen at the left central part of my puffer jacket, I stitched the snaps to the insulation by hand, not with a sewing machine. This wasn't easy, but was worth it. Stitch only through the technical layer, don't touch the main material, and the stitches won't be seen at the right side. Stitch the unsewed layers together once again. Pin two central front parts together, right sides inside at their upper edges, and stitch with a 1 cm seam allowance. Cut the seam allowances by several millimeters. This will prevent our seams from constricting. As we can't press the seams flat with an iron, as we don't want to ruin the waterproof features of the fabric, we'll open the seam allowances and sew them on to the insulation by hand. I found it easier to use a tailor's hem as an underlying surface. Let's move on to facings. The upper part of each facing is underlined with insulation material. So I cut a piece of insulation out using a technical layer line mark as it is shown in the video. We've already cut two pieces of the facing's lower part out of a non-fusible interlining, and now we are going to attach the upper pieces to the bottom ones. I'll do it with another strip of non-fusible interlining. At first, stitch an insulation on it, pin the bottom part to the strip, and then make another line of machine stitches. After that, I top stitched it with a zigzag. Now we can pin and stitch the two facing layers together, an insulation plus non-fusible interlining piece, and the one of the main material. Do so only for the left side facing of the puffer jacket. For the lining, cut out one back and two front pieces. Then to sleeves. If you, like me, made alterations to the sleeves length, don't forget to do it once again for the sleeves lining. Here I show how the facing layers and the magnet snaps on the right front part should go. Transfer the marks for the magnets to the technical layer and sew them on like we did before for the other side's technical layer, but the magnetic side up. Pin and stitch together 3 layers. Place the facing on top of an insulation plus non-fusible interlining piece. Then turn the thing over and add our technical layer to it. Stitch along the perimeter 1 mm off the edge. I use a standard machined foot for stitching on non-fusible interlining material and then change it to the walking foot when sewing on the insulation. Cut off all the excess insulation, if there is left any. Secure the magnetic snaps in place with machine stitches. You can use a single foot for that, but it was totally okay for me to use a standard one. Hide the excess threads. And again, pin 2 facing parts together, right sides inside, at their upper edges, and stitch with a 1 cm seam allowance. Cut the seam allowances by several millimeters. Open the seam allowances and sew them on to the insulation by hand. To make 2 button loops, we'll need them a little bit later. I take a bias cut strip of main fabric, fold it in half and stitch close to the folded edge. Cut off the excess fabric very close to the seam. Turn the thin out. Make a small pleat using the marks at the lining's back upper edge and 2 pleats at the lining's each front parts. Then secure them with machine stitches. To make a hanger, take a strip of main fabric we've cut earlier and do the same steps we did while making button loops. Take a neckline facing we've made earlier, it should already be lined with a non-fusible interlining, and pin it to the lining's back neckline, right sides inside. Stitch with a 1 cm seam allowance. Check that there are no unwanted pin tucks at the right side. Cut the seam allowance at several places. Turn the seam allowance to the lining and press with an iron. Mark the place where a hanger should go and pin it in place. Secure the hanger with machine stitches. Pin the lining's front and back pieces together at the shoulder seams right sides inside and stitch with a 1 cm seam allowance. Press the seams flat, turn the seam allowances to the front and iron again. Pin a sleeve into an armhole, using the marks right sides inside. Stitch with a 1 cm seam allowance. Press the seams flat, turn the seam allowances to the sleeve and iron again. Pin the lining at the side seams and stitch each one of it in one go with the sleeves, with a 1 cm seam allowance. Leave 2 technical holes, about 20 cm in the left side seam and 10 cm at the left sleeve seam. This will help us to turn the whole thing out. Press the seams flat, turn the seam allowances to the front and press again. This is it for now. We'll continue this project in the third video. Thank you for watching and sewing with me. Bye!